This is an ABC News special report.
Good afternoon. I'm Whit Johnson in New York. We're coming on the air with breaking news of a school shooting in Madison, Wisconsin. There are reports of multiple injuries at Abundant Life Christian School. First responders, you can see there, racing to the scene, the school just a short time ago. Police say the shooter is down, and we've just confirmed through our Aaron Katersky that the shooter is dead. Police are calling it a very active scene right now. The school teaches students from kindergarten through 12th grade. The police chief is walking up to the podium right now to brief the media. So let's go ahead and listen to what he has to say.
Coming and talk about how important the media is to our community. But the truth is, today is a sad, sad day, not only for Madison, but for our entire country, where yet another police chief is doing a press conference to speak about violence in our community, specifically in one of the places that's most sacred to me as someone who loves education and to someone who has children that are in schools. So I'm gonna tell you what I know. I'll answer any questions that I can. There'll be a secondary briefing that our PIO will let you know about, okay? Today, around 10:57 a.m., our officers were responding to a call of an active shooter at the Abundant Life Christian School here in Madison. When officers arrived, they found multiple victims suffering from gunshot wounds. We train on this almost quarterly. The last time we trained on this as commanders was approximately 2 weeks ago. The protocols are simple. Stop the killing, stop the dying, find out who's doing this. And the officers did that, and they did that adamantly. We had officers from around the county and around the state that came in support of this particular incident. Officers located a juvenile who they believe was responsible for this deceased in the building. Additionally, the officers began administering life-saving efforts to anyone who was wounded and making sure that those persons were transported. What we know is that a total of about 7 persons were transported from this scene to area hospitals for treatment. We know that at least 3 people have lost their lives, including a juvenile person. I don't have any other information about those persons who have lost their lives, and I'm not going to release that until we have, of course, spoken with family members and ensuring that they are fully aware of this tragic, tragic scene that occurred today. I want to thank all of the law enforcement partners and community members that came out to help. Our friends at the ATF. I've gotten calls from my friends at the FBI, the State Patrol, the Sheriff's Office, Monona Police Department, our fire department. It goes on and on and on. Because this is something that we all prepare for, but we hope we never have to do. As you can see, we have a unification center that was immediately set up where parents and guardians and loved ones and grandparents wanted to get information about their loved ones, and we wanted to make sure that they were unified immediately. So we were doing more than one thing at one time. We're still going through methodically clearing that school, clearing every vehicle, and making certain that there's no other threats to this community, which we believe there are none. We immediately alerted our mayor's office, and I've been on the phone with her and her office constantly. We also alerted Madison schools. We put the schools on lockdown, but there's no threats to MMSD schools at this time. But we wanted to make sure that we did our due diligence in this particular case. Again, we're still going through collecting evidence, collecting information, making sure that our community is safe from what is a sad day for our community and for our country. And we have to do a little bit better. I don't have all the answers that you want right now, but I will tell you this. We have some of the best officers in the entire country. Our detectives are amazing. We're going to go and work hard and go through this scene so that we can piece together what exactly happened. Again, there'll be another briefing in about 2 hours, and if I have additional information, I will certainly let you know what that information is. Again,
all right, you're listening to this breaking news right now out of Madison, Wisconsin. That is Police Chief Sean Barnes getting emotional, talking about this school shooting at Abundant Life Christian School. He confirmed for the reporters there 2 people confirmed dead, plus the shooter, who was a juvenile. And at this time, they believe there is no other threat to the community. But he was talking about how his officers train for this sort of scenario on a regular basis and were training for this exact thing just 2 weeks ago. And as you heard, they're getting emotional talking about this. Let's bring in our senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky. I was listening to you actually talking to your sources earlier. What are they telling you about what played out at this school?
Well, sad state of affairs when the police have to routinely train for just this very scenario. But that's the situation we're in. And Madison police confirmed that it was a juvenile who they believe to be the shooter, found dead inside the building. The chief didn't say it, but that implies the shooter may have taken his own life after opening fire. 7 people transported to the hospital, 2 others dead. He didn't give a lot of information about the severity of the injuries or who the deceased were, but he did say that the shooter's a juvenile. It raises immediate questions about how the shooter was able to get a gun inside the building, whether the juvenile actually goes to that school, whether victims were specifically targeted. The chief didn't have any of those answers as of yet, but he said there is no additional threat. The police believe they have this contained, so the priority now, in addition to treating the injured at area hospitals, is to get kids from inside the building reunited with their parents.
Aaron, thank you. And as we've seen from some of the images, the video coming in here, they set up this area around the school. They locked down some of the other schools in the area. And we've heard from local reporters on the ground that they've been trying to reunite parents with their children. Obviously, a very frightening time for everyone in that community. Let's bring in our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, who's been following developments. Pierre, we know that the ATF was on scene. We were also hearing that the FBI, other agencies were monitoring this. What more are you learning?
Well, I was told exactly that. FBI, ATF, all these different agencies trying to get additional information. Obviously, this rose to the level of their concern because they did get the reports of multiple injuries. They were waiting on the specifics about the fatalities. And one source I spoke to spoke about the notion that there are just so many of these mass shootings all the time. Last year, there were 656 mass shootings. That's where 4 or more people are shot or killed or wounded. This year to date, 486. This is now a routine part of American life. And law enforcement officials, although they're seeing progress, remain worried that this is now routine, young people being put in these situations.
Sadly, Pierre, and as we heard the chief, they're talking about the training for this exact scenario just 2 weeks ago, and their goal being when they arrive, stop the killing, stop the dying, find out who did this. And he said in this case, officers did exactly that. Let's bring in our ABC News contributor and former FBI agent, Brad Garrett. Brad, we've obviously followed a lot of these cases. Where does the investigation go from here? It's both, there's some encouraging news that the shooter is down and the shooter is no longer alive. However, when it comes to the investigation, now the officers, the investigators have to put this all together on their own about how this happened.
So the real key, Whit, is what did they know about this kid? Where we typically go quickly in these type of shootings. In other words, Aaron mentioned, where did the weapon come from? That's obviously key. Kids that are typically juveniles who aren't old enough to buy weapons, get them from home. If they don't get them from home, they can't have somebody else buy them. But the point being, you've got to figure out if you could have stopped this. So that's really a primary focus. And we've seen cases now with parents being charged with their children carrying out shootings. Let's go ahead and listen back to Chief Barnes. He was taking questions from reporters. Let's listen in for a moment.
It's a school. It's a safe space that we're updating victims. And so there's a lot of work that has to be done, and we're committed to doing that work. We just ask for your patience. I think the most important part is the reunification, again, that we spoke about, making sure that those persons who are, whether they're staff, students, because we need to make sure that we can notify people. I think that's the most important thing before we go any further.
But police they never fired their weapons.
That is correct.
Correct?
Let's follow
I don't know if it's a male or a female, but the police department did not fire their weapons. Thank you.
Scott, are there 3 fatalities you mentioned, including the suspected shooter?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
3 total.
That's correct.
Are the 7 that was transported, are the 3 fatalities within that 7 or addition to that?
Yes, within that 7, yes. Thank you.
Was the shooter a student at the school?
We believe the shooter was a student at the school, yes.
What can you tell us about the status of the other transports?
We know that they range from minor injuries to life-threatening. I know that's a huge, spectrum, but that's what we know now. And so we need everyone, again, to send your thoughts and your prayers out to them. One thing I do know is that we have some of the best medical care in the country here in Madison. And so we hope that everyone will recover. But at this time, we don't know.
So we did just get an update from our command post. 5 deceased at this time, 5 injured.
So a total of 10.
So a total of 10.
Again, this is a ever evolving situation. Just hearing that, what does that make you think? How does that make you feel? That we have to do a better job in our community on a Monday, right? So close to Christmas that we're updating victims. And so there's a lot of work that has to be done. And we're committed to doing that work. We just ask for your patience. I think the most important part is the reunification, again, that we spoke about, making sure that those persons who were in the schools, whether they're staff, students, or what have you, are reunified, and we have done that. Again, I want to say thank you to all our partners. Again, our friends are here from the ATF. They're going to help us. I heard the question about the gun. I don't know yet, which is why we have a great partnership with the ATF that will help us determine the origin of this gun and where it happened. So I'm gonna leave it at that, and we will have another press conference. Stephanie has the location.
We're doing 2:30 at Fire Station 14 in their community room. 2:30, Fire Station 14.
Steph, can you confirm the 5 who are dead? Does that include the shooter?
That does include the shooter.
Are the
Yes,
victims
it would.
students, teachers, a mix?
Yeah, again, we're not going to talk about that until we notify all the families that may be involved. Again, this is an ever evolving situation, and we're trying to figure it out. What did you say, man?
Has the school been cleared? Are all the students out of the school?
The school has been through a secondary clearing. We're doing another one now with the help of bomb dogs, just in case. We want to clear vehicles and things of that nature. So we're going to take our time, and we're going to go through, and we're going to do everything that we can. So thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Fire Station 14.
Once again, that is Chief Barnes talking about this school shooting at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. He called it an ever-evolving situation, and we're actually learning the numbers were literally changing as he was speaking. So now officers are saying 4 people killed plus the shooter, so 5 total. We know the shooter was a juvenile. 5 other people injured and transported to local hospitals. Aaron, I know you've been talking to some of your sources as well. What else are we learning about how this played out?
Well, it's important. The chief confirmed, Chief Barnes did, with that the police officers who responded to the scene did not fire a shot. So that leads us to believe the shooter took his or her own life. And the chief would not confirm whether it was a male or female juvenile, but that juvenile was able to get a gun inside the building, open fire. It appears that there are 5 people that suffered gunshot wounds that have been transported to area hospitals. And you heard the chief say they are now going on a tertiary screening for the 3rd time, going through the school and vehicles on the parking lot with bomb dogs just to make sure there's no additional threat. But they seem to know right away that they had this contained as soon as the officers encountered the dead juvenile on the ground inside the building. They felt comfortable then bringing EMTs with responding officers inside to give people medical attention right away if they needed it.
And at this point, again, they felt confident to be able to tell people in the community there does not appear to be any other threat in the area.
There doesn't appear so. They did put Madison public schools on lockdown out of an abundance of caution. The chief says there does not appear to be any additional threat, so those lockdowns will undoubtedly be lifted. Priority now is to get kids reunited with parents who have got to be worried sick.
Absolutely. A terrifying day for those families. Aaron Katursky and our entire team, thank you. Our coverage does continue on ABC News Live and abcnews.com. Then we'll have a full wrap-up tonight on World News Tonight with David Muir. For now, I'm Whit Johnson in New York. Have a great day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
All right, so we'll continue the coverage now of this shooting in Madison, Wisconsin at the Abundant Life Christian School of about 400 students, K through 12, and Police Chief Sean Barnes of Madison, Wisconsin, just briefing with the latest numbers. This has been a fatal shooting. 5 people are dead, 4 including, and then the shooter as well. Police came on the scene after responding to a call at about 10:57 local in Madison. They encountered injured people. They went into the building and they found a deceased juvenile who they believe to be the shooter inside on the grounds of the school. And that seems to have been the end of the shooting. But once again, there are victims injured, 5 injured, 4 students, we assume 4 people inside the school killed, the shooter dead as well, given the fact that the police chief said police did not fire a shot. That would suggest that the shooter killed himself. This is an active crime scene as we go. So for more, let's bring in Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas, Senior Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katersky, and former FBI agent Brad Garrett, a contributor, and our former Chief of Detectives at the NYPD, Bob Boyce, who joins us by phone. And Aaron, let me go to you first. I think I covered the waterfront that you have been covering, but if you've heard anything else, let me know. This has been a quick resolution to a terrible situation.
It has. It was just about an hour and a half ago when police in Madison, Wisconsin, Terry, said they responded to the Abundant Life Christian School on the outskirts of the city. Responded not only Madison, but officers from all over the county and the state pouring in after reports of a shooter. And police confirm a juvenile shooter opened fire, seems to have shot and injured 5 people, killed 4 people before taking his or her own life. And the authorities did not confirm whether it was a male or female juvenile, but it raises immediate questions, Terry, about how this juvenile was able to get a gun and get it inside the school, and whether the juvenile, him or herself, was a student at that school. The police said they do not believe there is any additional threat. The priority now is getting kids reunited with parents.
All right, Aaron, thank you very much. They're working on that. We have a statement now from the White House on this shooting. Quote, the president has been briefed on the school shooting in Madison, Wisconsin. Senior White House officials are in touch with local counterparts in Madison to provide support as needed. I'd like to go to Bob Boyce now, former chief of the NYPD and frequent contributor on these 2 frequent events. And Bob, it does sound as if this was quickly resolved because the shooter took his or her own life.
Boston.
I don't know if you heard me, Bob.
Yeah, hi, Terry. How are you? I'm sorry, getting a little breakdown here. Yeah, you see the chief doing the best job he can in difficult circumstances. And he's going to give the broadest information he has at this point, which he did in a fairly quick time. So, terrible day, and you see all the agencies responding. These basic protocols we hear all the time across the nation. So just a horrible day, and we'll figure out the other things later, what happens.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bob. And let me go to Brad Garrett. Brad, what do you make of, now that the information is fleshing out a little bit, that we're getting a little bit fuller picture of what happened? What are you sensing about this particular incident?
And my sense would be, Terry, what preliminary information they had about this shooter. Typically, particularly younger shooters, it's sometimes based on bullying and, other maybe emotional or psychological issues, but they're revenge driven. I mean, that's why people go to schools. They feel powerless. They feel powerful with a gun in their hands. And they many times go after the people that they feel have harmed them, which could include, obviously, staff, teachers, etc. But the other thing, Terry, is that typically younger shooters, and they just say juvenile, so I don't know what that means exactly yet, tend to talk more about what they're about to do. So my guess is there's going to be information either in social media, classmates, parents, etc., that may have pieces of information. And, the obvious concern in these cases is, was there enough red flags that somebody could have stopped him before he got to the school today? And obviously we don't know the answer to that, but that's what you're going to be looking for, because that's where all of these parents where their children were killed today and injured are going to turn to as to how did this happen, and why didn't you stop it?
And that is the refrain weekly in this country, it seems, when we get shootings like this. And let me go on that issue to Pierre Thomas, our senior justice correspondent who covers these stories individually and has a broader take as well in your reporting, Pierre. I was struck by what Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes said, that they drill on this all the time, his forces, his officers, and they were doing so just recently. And here at 10:57 Madison time, they get the call.
Terry, the good news is that they drill all the time. The bad news is that they have to, because this is now a routine part of American life. Last year, 656 mass shootings defined as a shooting where 4 or more people are injured or killed. In this case, what struck me immediately is that they were able to identify the shooter as someone from the school, a student at the school. And that gives them a lot of information, obviously, about the child's background, who the parents are. That leads into the question of how that child got access to a weapon. So I think the takeaway from this story, yet again, just based on what the chief said, is this is now a situation where we have chronic epidemic violence, although the news is good in that violent crime is down substantially this year compared to previous years in previous recent years. And in fact, if you look at mass shootings so far to date, there have been 486. And we're almost at the end of the year, when last year, as I said earlier, there was 656. So while that news is good, it still reminds you that we have hundreds of these things happening all the time at a rate of more than 1 per day. So that's just simply the cold hard facts. And, you know, the fact that around the holidays, it's not abnormal, almost routine to see it because of the stressors that people are under in some of these situations. But I think that's the thing that we mourn, that this has now happened again, and it's likely to happen more in the future.
Alas, there's no question of that. Aaron Katursky, I want to go back to you on sort of the range of responses that we've heard from Police Chief Sean Barnes, from getting on the scene right away to try and set up unification. They're really on it, as you have to be after an incident like this.
Police agencies, because in large part of what Pierre was talking about, the frequency of these, have gotten a lot better. The preference is to go in right away, stop the shooting, stop the dying to the extent possible, figure out who did it, and neutralize the threat. And as soon as police in Wisconsin entered the school, they were able to see the juvenile shooter was dead inside the building. So they knew almost right away that the threat was reduced, and they did a couple of rounds of follow-on checks to clear the classrooms and some of the vehicles parked outside to make sure there was no follow-on threat. While they did that, they put area schools on lockdown out of an abundance of caution. Right now, the police believe there is nothing else to worry about except getting all these terrified kids back with their parents. As for who the juvenile is, police didn't say whether male or female, or what the weapon used was, where the weapon came from. That's part of the reason why the ATF is on the scene. So they have a lot more investigative work to do. But in terms of the response, it all unfolded in about an hour, Terry.
All right, they're working hard there, no question. Thank you, Aaron. I want to go back to Bob Boyce now on this, the way that this ended. It ended without the intervention of police in terms of firing. Obviously, they were there on the scene right away, and we don't know exactly what happened, except that they found a juvenile down who they believe to be the shooter, and that person is dead. This is one of those in which this person seems to have taken his or her own life at the end of taking others.
Sure, Terry, we'll never know probably exactly what's in that young man's mind or young woman's mind, whatever the case may be. But you can see when the police are coming, this thing is ending quickly. It generally forces the shooter to make a decision. And that's when we have these suicides, these self-inflicted wounds, because the police are coming, they can hear them coming in, and police commands as well. The rapid response is the whole thing here. To go in and address this threat immediately right there, and that's something that these officers have to live with every day. They know they have to do this. And that's accepted across the country. Protocols are working in the strangest sense, but they're not stopping anything. and that's the bad part of this. The protocols are working, but we still have these incidents, and that's a terrible shame.
Yeah, that is a bigger problem. Thank you, Bob. Brad, I want to go to you on that. So the police response might very well have saved lives, given what Bob was just talking about, that cornered and trapped and feeling the thing is over, the shooter seems to have taken his or her own life.
And keep in mind, Terry, that by and large, mass shooters know that this is basically a suicide mission in some form or fashion. They either take their own life or they force the police to kill them. And so, yeah, you sort of have to start with that. But I want to pick up on something that Bob brought up in that, yes, we do a much better job. And to your question to me, because we respond so quickly, we save lives. Most mass shootings occur under 5 minutes. My guess is this one probably didn't last even that long, potentially. But the point being, the breakdown across the board is that we're not doing a good enough job collectively in sort of analyzing and looking at troubled kids that are starting to talk in very dark ways. And sometimes it's just talk, but we have to do a better job of keeping track of them.
Absolutely. That is a high priority for the country. Brad Garrett, Pierre Thomas, Aaron Katursky, and Bob Boyce, thank you very much for being with us. And we take you now back to WKOW coverage. That's our ABC News affiliate in Madison, Wisconsin, after police say there are reports of multiple injuries, 5 dead, including the shooter at that school shooting in Madison.
All right, again, Madison Rios here as we're looking up at the monitor as we see officers from MPD outside of that reunification center there across the street from where Madison is, as hopefully families are starting to be reunited. I quickly want to go over some information, what we're learning. Again, this is a developing situation here. I've learned some details about Abundant Life Christian School. It was founded in 1978. It is a community Christian school. It looks like they have about 200 families from their website. Again, this is from their website, about 200 families from 56 different churches here in the greater Dane County area, including metropolitan Madison and surrounding communities. It is a 20-acre campus, so it is a very large campus facility that they have there. And it looks like they have students from kindergarten through 12th grade. So a number of different ages that are at this school, Abundant Life Christian School.
Well, Sean Barnes saying, too, it is a private Catholic school, right? It is not affiliated with MPD. Yeah. He said in his news conference about 20 minutes ago or so that there was no threat to MPD, anything like that at all. He said he wasn't sure if Abundant Life had metal detectors inside, but again, a quote from him, they shouldn't have to have metal detectors because it's a school. It should be a safe space for them. We've been mentioning before, there's going to be another briefing at about 12:30 this afternoon, okay? So in about 90 minutes from now or so, their PIO, Steph Fryer, we heard from her.
That'll
she
be
said
2:30.
fire station.
2:30, not 12:30.
Or sorry, 2:30. Thank you, Madison. Fire station 14. Again, developing story, breaking news, east side of Madison. A really heartbreaking day.
And this happened just before 11 o'clock at 10:57. So we're approaching the 2-hour mark of when this started to unfold here in the Madison area. Again, we know that 5 people are dead, but we don't have any information besides that about who those 5 people might be.
We know the shooter, right, is a juvenile, but they haven't said whether or not it's a male or a female. Sean Barneston, I don't believe he specifically said, yes, they were a student. I think he said he thought they were a student at the school. Again, this is just information that we're going off of from that press conference that was just held moments ago from Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes. Is Madison Rios, are you ready to go again? Can we send things back out live to you right now? And
absolutely.
Okay, great. Give us a recap. What's happening on your end?
Absolutely. So I had mentioned earlier that the squad cars and the first responders, their sirens are no longer going off. We're still seeing them drive by here. As we discussed earlier, 5 people were killed in this shooting at Abundant Christian Life School. And that includes the juvenile suspect that Madison police believe was the shooter involved in this incident. They have not revealed any details about that shooter other than they were a juvenile. 5 additional people were injured for a total of 10 people that were involved in this incident that we know of so far. Now, we were just briefed by Sean Barnes around 12:15 today, and another briefing is coming around 2:30 at Fire Station 14. As these details are coming in, as everything is developing, they will share that with us when they can. Now, I'm going to step aside here. Right behind me here is the reunification site. I believe that they moved this Madison fire truck here to kind of maintain some privacy for those parents and families who are trying to be reunified with their students. And we're right in front of SSM Health Dean Medical Group. As you can see, police officers are trying to communicate things with people who are trying to reach their loved ones. First responders are there as well. We could see a fire truck is pulling through here, right off of Stoughton Road. Now, Buckeye Road doesn't appear to be closed off from the one end, but if you're coming from Stoughton Road area, they are still redirecting traffic over there. Now, the active shooter threat came in around 11 a.m. And like you had mentioned earlier, Chief Sean Barnes mentioned that their training center, MPD's training center for active shooting incidents, is not too far from here. And it's, you know, he had mentioned this is real life experience that they're putting that training to use. And it's unfortunate that they have to put it to use. You had mentioned that, you know, he was not able to comment if there were metal detectors in the school, but he was adamant that there should not be metal detectors in the school because it is a school after all. Now, officers from around the county and the state responded to the scene, found multiple victims with gunshot wounds. As I mentioned earlier, 5 people lost their lives, including the shooter or the suspected shooter, and 5 people are injured. The school is still being cleared, searching all cars, every inch of that school to make sure that everybody is out of that building and anybody remaining in the building is pulled out safely. There is no threat to any MMSD schools at this time. Again, Madison schools went on lockdown at the time of the threat, but there is no ongoing threat at this time. The threat has since been neutralized. We'll keep you guys posted. We'll keep checking in here. And again, at 2:30, they're going to be briefing us again at Fire Station 14 with any additional details that they may have at that time.
Yeah, Madison, you mentioned those schools, and I just want to clarify as well. I got an email from a viewer a couple of minutes ago. Okay. I was calling it a Catholic school. Abundant Life is not a Catholic school. It is a Christian school. No affiliation to MPD. Madison mentioned those schools were on lockdown. No threat to Madison Public Schools. But again, it is a Christian school supported by about 40 churches or so.
And about 15 minutes ago now, we got a statement from Abundant Christian Life here. As it says, prayers requested today. We had an active shooter incident at ALCS. We are in the midst of following up. We will share information as we are able. Please pray for our Challenger family. Again, this is the school that posted this statement about 10 minutes ago on Facebook.
We also know the president has been briefed on what's happening here in the capital city. The White House has confirmed that. Senator Tammy Baldwin also taking to X this morning. She said, I have been briefed on the active shooter at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, and my heart goes out to all of those impacted. My office is in touch with local and state officials, and I stand ready to assist law enforcement and anyone affected. We also heard from Mark Pocan this morning. He wrote, my office is aware of reports of a shooting at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison. We are in touch with local law enforcement and will continue to monitor the situation and offer any assistance we can provide to our first responders. Senator Ron Johnson also responding today, saying my sincere condolences and prayers for all the victims of the tragedy at Abundant Life. I will continue to closely monitor that situation.
So again, this is breaking news here in Madison. Multiple people are hurt after a shooting at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison. 27 News reporter Madison Rios has been on the scene. And Madison, I know when we first went to you about an hour ago, there was a steady flow of traffic. We saw a lot of police vehicles, medical vehicles. What are you seeing right now? Are people still arriving there to that reunification site?
So it looks like people...
That's the news team at our ABC News affiliate WKOW in Madison, Wisconsin on this school shooting at Abundant Life Christian School. Our coverage will continue after the break.
What makes Elton John so iconic?
Everyone's talking about
Elton John.
Sir Elton John.
Elton John.
Elton John.
There will never be another. Everything that you want Elton John to be is.
Superstar and a legend. Now, Elton John opens up the exclusive interview with Elton John.
I'm still standing, and I am better than I ever did. And there's a lot more to come.
Elton John, Still Standing. Now streaming on Hulu. ABC's David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. More Americans watch World News Tonight with David Muir than any other newscast. Friday nights at 9 on ABC. Mean true crime.
True murder mystery.
Shocking.
Sex, betrayal, lies. A bombshell. The greatest true crime stories.
2020. Friday nights at 9.
Reporting from the path of Hurricane Helene in Tampa, Florida, I'm Rena Roy. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
The news never stops.
We are here in Israel, a nation at war.
We appeared to be gunfire. The former president rushed off the stage.
Hurricane Helene ravaging the coastline of Florida.
It's moving really fast, screaming across the state.
And that's why ABC News Live never stops.
Taking you to the center of the story.
As news breaks live.
We hear those small arms fire around us.
We're right on the border between Ukraine and Russia.
ABC News Live is there for you at the start of your